Hi, I'm Jack, and I never knew my grandfathers. That was perhaps for the better, as I heard they weren't the best people. While my mom's father was an abuser through and through, my dad's father was aloof. He was distant, drained his money in drinking and gambling, and couldn't handle his newfound responsibility. At least partially, this was beyond his control, however, as his service during the Vietnam War left him a shell of his former self. With PTSD resources slim to none in the early 1970s, he was confined to his own mind and, as a result, was not there for my father. He was not alone in this situation. Every time there's another major conflict in the United States, a whole new generation is raised on a group of people who can't properly distinguish reality, let alone help a child distinguish theirs. Fortunately, there is an increased amount of acceptance for those struggling with mental health issues in the current year, but this wasn't always the case. It is important to stress the power that a helping hand can have when we talk about mental health, because should that hand not be there, it will have adverse effects on everyone around you, especially your children. Children of parents with PTSD are often not shown the proper care they need in order to grow and thrive. Parents are often distant and cannot properly communicate with their child or form bonds. This, combined with alcohol and substance abuse, can worsen relations, especially due to secondhand PTSD from parental violence. Due to an increased paranoia, they are on high alert all the time and are physically unable to let their guard down when talking to their child. This results in less positive parenting experiences with the child, severely impacting the child's development, making them more antisocial and nervous. They may even begin to mimic their parents' tendencies in order to try and get affection. My father is one of these children. Although he wasn't affected much due to his limited exposure with his father, he can still describe his experiences. So how was your relationship with your father?
Interesting question. My father left when I was about 5 years old. My mother and my father got divorced when I was about 5 years old. I did know my father throughout the years. Sporadically, he would show up, but yeah, I knew who he was. So I would say the relationship was hit or miss at best.
Through your relationship with your father, do you think he would have been a good father, and do you think the PTSD had something to do with his relationship?
I definitely think the
PTSD
had something to do with his overall relationship. For sure, with my mother, I think they got divorced primarily because of that. But I will say this though, as far as him being a good father, he just wasn't my cup of tea type of guy. He's somebody that if we were the same age and we were to hang out, he just a guy that I really wouldn't jive. Like, I don't think I would choose him as a friend, at least from my exposure to him. So, but as far as the him suffering from the SD, yeah, definitely there was something there. He did have kind of a hairpin trigger, and I could go on and on about some stories that things happened when my driving permit and all that good stuff. But anyway, I definitely think it had an impact, and I know it had an impact when it came to my mom and him.
Yeah. Okay. All of these experiences made me empathize with my father and the millions of others who went through what he did and worse. But this whole time, it made me wonder, is this a gender-specific issue? Are men less likely to go to therapy and, as a result, are worse fathers? As it turns out, yes, men are twice as less likely to go to therapy than their female counterparts, and are also less likely to take advice and medication from their therapists. So why did I connect these two things? Well, given that most active duty service members and almost all past veterans are men, we need to find a way to help these people in order to move forward with our society. We have gone through a process of destigmatization of mental health over the past decade, which is great, but it seems to be focused on the younger generation. This is good, but it seems to neglect the older generation who had to deal with their trauma without any resources and are probably stuck in antiquated gender norms. We have to target these communities so they can make amends with their sons and daughters, and old wounds can finally be stitched up. Credits: music and editing done through Soundtrack, recording done on voice memos, research done through National Library of Medicine and Veterans Affairs.